We have a great guest speaker today. Susan Mentrak is the guest curator of our summer main gallery exhibition. And you might want to look for her artwork in there if you go in, and I hope you'll go in and check out the show after you learn all about it. And she has, I think, 6 things in the show herself. Yes, and her stuff is very lively and engaging. She's a graduate of Columbus College of Art and Design, where she majored in illustration. Her designs have been seen in Nordstrom, the New York Times, and many other publications. In 2016, she began working primarily in ceramics, and aren't we glad she did, because now she's the manager of our very popular ceramic studio. And I might add that I took a clay jewelry making class with her, and I don't know that I made beautiful things, but we surely had a good time and we learned a lot. She lives in Jackson Township with her husband and her daughter, and I hope you'll welcome Susan Mentrak.
All right, before we get started, do you have your beverage and refreshments? Okay, grab your cup. You have your cup, a mug, or a water bottle. We're gonna do a simultaneous sip, okay? Get everybody ready? 1, 2, and if you don't have one, you can just pretend. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, we're ready. That had nothing to do with anything I'm talking about. Okay, so welcome to Juxtaposed. 2 years ago, PJ Hargraves, Drew Ipolani, if I'm pronouncing that right, Wade Toller, and Sayil Chung, they submitted a proposal for the group show, to do a group show in the M Gallery. And that space, if you've been up in that space, it's very intimate and small. And to host 4 artists, particularly ceramic artists, in such a tight space, it's just a little too much. So Alex and the rest of the committee that jurors and decides who goes in the M Gallery, they really liked the work, but thought it would be perfect to have a main gallery show. And so that is when they asked me to guest curate it. So I was tasked with taking those 4 guys and then adding 2 with other artists. So I called them the original Akron 4, and I started thinking about how to put a show together using them and their theme in their proposal. Because their styles were all different, I think they tried to find the common theme, and they did a broad idea of chroma, which is so broad, and I can understand that kind of brings them all together and you can have different styles, and so they proposed chroma. Well, the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, the real reason is not chroma. It's really the reason they want to do a show together is because they're friends and a group of guys and their friendship and working together. Let's just work off of that. And so I started thinking about just narrowing it down. How can we tease that out? What else can we look at? So I started asking questions like, where did they go to school? How do they know each other? What other schools maybe that we could bring in? And so I found the common ground, which was they were all teaching and connected to the University of Akron. And then I discovered that 3 out of the 4 had gone to Cranbrook. Now, so I have the different schools. Cranbrook is that one up there. I have University of Akron. I'm like, well, how can I bring other people in? And I thought, well, I'm totally selfish reasons. I am partial to the Columbus College of Art and Design. That's where I went to school. And I would love to be able to showcase those artists. And so I pulled in Columbus College of Art and Design. And then I was thinking, okay, we have ceramics. Kent State is in our backyard, and they have one of the most established ceramic programs. Kurt Magnus, who's in the show, he has passed away. However, he is probably one of the most influential ceramic artists worldwide. So I'm like, perfect. Okay, so we have our 4, and then I move from there. And so I put this graphic together to kind of see the inner web and connections of who I have in the show. So these are all the artists that I have in the show, and each ring is color-coded to what school they're connected with, and how they know me, and how they know each other. So we see here, and I started off, Kurt Magnus is the top one, that's his sculpture. And then I have Lowell Tolstead. So I broke it up into the influencers, so the people that have been around and influenced, almost like the grandfathers of the show, who have influenced and mentored the rest of us. And so that's where the genesis is, and then it branched off from there. So the influencers I have are Dean Mitchell, Lowell Tolstead, and Kurt Magnus. And then we went from there. And so the idea is how the schools of thought, how they have influenced and mentored each other, and how their legacies have mentored each other, and how does that look like. So if we put it together, does that affect the artist's style? Does it affect your subject matter? Let's find out. So this is my thesis question. These are my thesis questions. Does the environment, does that impact and influence your art? So environment meaning school, your relationship and friendships, and your mentor and who you're being taught by. And so let's put it all in the same space and compare it and see, let's just find out. Let's see what it looks like together. So I have the goals that I set for myself for this show is to honor the past. So we want to honor those voices that influence the students through mentorship and teaching. And then also inspire the future through our emerging artists, our young artists' voices, thus showing where we came from and then where we're going with each school that I chose. And then I have the dialogue by contrasting. So we have different generations. We're also contrasting the different styles. So this is where I get the word juxtaposed from. So I wanted to juxtapose or contrast the different schools as well as the different styles and the different themes that each artist has investigated. So you will see when you see the show, the styles are broad. So we have artists that are super high photorealistic artwork to abstract expressionism, all in one show, so you can see them side by side. And then I wanted visitors to walk away with something that will stick with them for a while, and that was another goal. And I think that's a goal of almost every show, is like you want to bring something, walk away with something that you like. So some people might really be affected by a more realistic piece of artwork, or they might be impacted by more expressionistic artwork. Or you might walk into, I think it would be interesting, you might think that you like only one type of artwork and that speaks to you. Like, I've always really liked realistic artwork, but then you might be moved by more expression or abstract piece of work and it speaks to you. So I just wanted to be able to expose all different kinds in one show. So we're going to start with the established voices. This is Kurt Magnus, Dean Mitchell, and Lowell Tolstead. So Kurt Magnus, he taught at Kent State. He also taught at Cranbrook. So we have an overlap between both of those schools. He was raised by two artists. Both of his parents were artists, so he was always immersed in art. he takes a lot of his artwork, he is influenced by a lot and kind of mixes it all together. And then I'll show you some of his work. You can definitely see it's almost like a recipe, like it's all mixed together into one piece. Let's see. He was born in 1952. He had a tenure at Kent State University, and he really is considered one of the most influential ceramic artists of that time period, influencing people continuing today, including one of his students was Laura Cuckey, which is interesting. She is a teacher and instructor at the Sheridan College, which is in Canada. And then one of our younger artists had her, so it's like a, indirect way of how he's influenced other instructors or other ceramic artists. It's like a ripple effect. I never got to meet Kirk, but I understand he was a bigger than life character. Like, he was very gregarious, very charismatic. He loved to talk to people. And he influenced and taught people all over the world. And he even taught Mr. Rogers. So he did an episode of Mr. Rogers, and that's Eva Kwong, his wife. And they were teaching Mr. Rogers how the ceramic process works. And so I just that's a still from from that episode. You can look it up if you just Google Kurt Magnus and Eva Kwong and Mr. Rogers, it'll come up. So his quotes, ceramics tends to be like very stiff. Obviously, it's stoneware, it's hard and stiff and very concrete, right? Well, he wanted to put expression into the artwork. So when you look at his pieces, he wants it to just really grab you. And he was everything about movement and emotion, and he did not want the object to be frozen in time. So just frozen in motion. So he wanted it to be more about movement, and you can see the movement in his work. So this is Kurt. This photo was taken in 2008. He died, I believe he had an aneurysm. He died suddenly in 2013. So here are some of his pieces. So he would take classic Greek shapes and pottery traditions and then reinterpret them with his expressive style. So he's using color, and then you can see more of an expressive workmanship in it. On the contrast, so that's Kent State's side, that's Kurt Magnus. That's more expressive, you just get it out and fast and loose. And then we have the influencer of Lowell Tolstead. Now, Lowell Tolstead, I would say, is the complete opposite of Kirk. Lowell Tolstead is who influenced me. I had Mr. Tolstead for drawing several years, and he was a great influence in my practice. He was the Dean of Fine Arts from 1967 to 2005. He was influenced by Giorgio Morandi, and I don't know if you can see, like, you're like, why all this? He's very so hyper realistic and detail oriented, and then he's influenced by this. But I don't know if you can see the common ground is to highlight the mundane and uplift it. So this is what really grabbed his attention, was this artist. He was moved by this printmaker and painter he was influenced by it. He just liked the composition of Morandi's work, and he was very intrigued by the simplicity of it. And that simplistic style really appealed to Tolstead. So this is one of his quotes, and I remember him saying it to me, and it just really impacted to strive for better. So he would say young artists have technical skills, but nothing worthwhile to say. And then other young artists really have something important to say, but they don't have the patience to cultivate their craft. And then, so he emphasized like the perfection of marrying the two together. And that's the sweet spot where you want to aim towards. So this is, I found this photo on the school archives, and this is probably taken at the time when I went to school. And if you notice, he did that a lot. Can you see what he's doing? He's drawing on the students' artwork, and he did that regularly to show you how to correct. He was correcting you, correcting your drawings. But he wouldn't draw on top of your own drawing. He would draw next to him, on right next to what you were drawing. And if you notice in his, this is one of his pieces. That it's enormous, but it has the same amount of detail as even his tiniest pieces. It's just a lot of it in a big space. This is kind of work he was doing when I had him as an instructor in the late 80s. Getting back to when he was instructing, he would point out that you don't see lines. He doesn't use line in his drawings, which is very unusual. His drawings are all tone. So when you go into the gallery and look at he has the artichoke on the tin. If you look at it, there are no lines. It's just tone on tone, and that is what creates the lines. And he would say to us, lines don't exist in real life. Why are you putting them in your drawing? So this is, how come it didn't advance? It's not advancing. See if I can do it this way. There we go. Okay, so he also focused on the idea of highlighting and highlighting the mundane. Obviously cherries aren't that big, so by making them in a bigger scale, he's really bringing attention to the subject matter and making everyday objects interesting. So he's very much about contemplative, almost a meditation of really going in and looking and seeing and paying attention to the smallest of details. Let's see. Our next influencer is Dean Mitchell. Now, Dean Mitchell also went to CCAD. When I was at CCAD, I included him because he was, along with Lowell Tolstead, he was a big influence in my art practice. He wasn't a teacher at CCAD. He graduated from CCAD in 1980. I was at CCAD in the late 80s, and I had numerous teachers that would show his work and say, this is what you aim for. This is the kind of work and the level that we want you to aim for, and want you use him as your role model. So the instructors were like, this is good. You follow what he's doing. So Dean, when he started at CCAD, he was influenced by Andrew Wyeth, and Andrew Wyeth's known for his watercolors and egg tempera paintings, and he was shocked to learn, and he would go through books of Andrew Wyeth's paintings, and he was the first artist. He would say, wow, there's an artist who painted black people, and he was white, and he was so touched by that. At CCAD, our school is right next to the Columbus College of Art and Design is right next to the Columbus Museum of Art. And he said when he attended CCAD, He had never been in a museum before. He'd never been to an art museum. And he was surprised there weren't any colored people to be seen on the walls, and yet there were all these masterful portraits and paintings of other subjects. And he writes about that. It really, that experience affected him even to today. He still talks about it. He writes that it has been it's been my driving force to achieve technical mastery so that when people view my work, they can sense my skill as well as my deep connection with my chosen subjects. So he saw it, I have to master this medium and be the best that there is to overcome the fact that I'm Black and not represented. Like, I need to go above and beyond just to get my foot in the door. So this year, he still, wanted to point out, he is one of the only people, actually he's the only person to have won 4 gold medals as of this year. He won the gold medal with the American Watercolor Society's with this piece right here. It's called Tampa Bay Drawbridge, and it was just awarded American Watercolor Association's gold medal, and he's the first and only person to have won 4 medals from them. This is his newest work. The work we have in the gallery is, I think, from 2013, maybe older. This is his newer work. On the right, it's a little bit more abstract. That's a acrylic painting, and then this is a watercolor painting. And he was asked why he's attracted to do realistic type paintings, and his response was, I don't really consider myself a painter of realism. Instead, he sees what's before him and paints abstractly with lots of layers and putting down color. And as he's putting the layers down with each additional, so he starts broad and more abstract, and then he keeps adding, and as he adds, the figure comes to the forefront and becomes more realistic. So he doesn't start, his aim isn't to be a realistic painter. It just comes about, it comes about, from laying down the color in his technique. So, and then I want to read what he wrote about why he's interested in his subject matter. And he wrote, I'm interested in getting totally lost in the moment of painting, capturing something that can't truly be repeated, a rare moment that I only have as a human being. It's like painting is life and life is painting. I will never pass this moment again this way. It's like trying to hold on to time, which is basically impossible. And this is what I truly love about being creative. It's all about the time and the moment. And the reason I wanted to include this is because I have a couple other artists that have said the same thing, that it's about time and being in the moment. Okay, now on to, this is our mid-career. I have 7 of them. We have PJ Hargraves, and he teaches at the University of Akron. He grew up in Philadelphia, and he attended the Tyler School of Art at Temple University, which is where he originally met the 4. So in the beginning, I talked about the original 4 artists that proposed the show. That's Wade, Drew, and Sa'il, and PJ. Well, they all met at the Tyler School of Art at Temple University. He went on to get his MFA at University of Nebraska, and then now he is working at the University of Akron. And his theme is he likes having fun. He embraces the joy of every day. And so He likes to experiment and see what happens with the ceramic medium. So for instance, on the right here, now it looks huge. It's actually like this big. And that is pipe cleaner. And I think that's a sponge, like a little sponge. And he's dipped them into ceramic slip. So slip is like water, liquid clay. And then fired it, and of course the pipe cleaner burns out in the kiln, and then this is what's left of it. And he made like a little tree. It looks like little pretzels hanging off. And that's just him having fun and embracing joy, and not so serious. So he has this quote that I love. So his imagined scenes are about a celebration of life's abundance and a celebration of ceramic processes. So the celebration of ceramic processes is like experimenting. Well, what's going to happen? What if you dip a pipe cleaner in clay? What's going to happen if you fire it? So that kind of fun, and just curiosity. He likes to, I hope this work can be an opportunity to stimulate playful imagination and draw attention to the importance of finding moments of joy in our increasingly complicated lives. So life is hard enough already, so let's just embrace having fun, right? And for example, he makes a lot of functional wear, but he decorates it and makes it fun. So these are two little bowls. He has, if you see, notice the trees that he's made in the gallery. He has the bird design, he uses that a lot. And then he makes these little flowers. And I asked him about the flowers, and he's like, you remember what your grandma would make? He goes, well, I remember my grandma making cake, decorating, the little cake flowers. So that's a nod to that. We have Hiroshi Hayakawa. Now, Hiroshi was born and raised in Japan, and he has his BA in French literature. He also, besides being an amazing, skillfully and technical draftsman, he is also the author of 4 papercraft books and has been featured in Martha Stewart Living for his paper folding craft. So with his drawings, he has embraced the vanitas theme. And vanitas is a theme in history that was originated in Dutch still life paintings in the early 17th century. These paintings include objects that symbolize death, the transience of life, and the vanity of worldly possessions and achievements. And there's a high use of symbolism, so we use a skull to symbolize death. When you go into the gallery, he has a drawing of a woman with a skull that's tattooed on her arm, and so that's why he used that skull is to symbolize death. But then it also has a beautiful flower, if I remember correctly, to symbolize life. And I think this theme also goes along with Dean's of just embracing the fleetness of life, observing what's right in front of you and embracing what's in the moment and cherishing that. So I'm not going to read this quote. So sense of mystery, the awareness of fragility of life, and how beautiful things can be right in front of you. So this is one of his pieces to that Veritas theme. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. That's graphite pencil and that's 13 by 11 on Bristol board. Same with this. This is also all pencil. And I don't know if you can tell that he was a student of Lowell Tolstead. I don't know if you can see the connection there. I can definitely see that he was a student of Mr. Tolstead's as well. So this is Drew Ippoliti. He went to Cranbrook, He also taught at Tyler School of Art at Temple, and that's where he met PJ and the other two artists. He taught at the University of Akron and lived in the Akron community, and that's where he got to know and PJ, and also Sahil taught there as well. He's a Fulbright Scholar Fellowship, which he went to South Korea. I almost said North Korea, that would be impossible. So he likes to explore where culture and craft collide, and he incorporates community stories. So this is one of his pieces. This was done during the COVID time period, and the circles, what he said about the rings on top, and you'll also notice the rings. It's a common element in his design. You'll see them in the gallery as well. So the rings on top represent barriers that separate us and shape our experiences, such as social distancing. So you remember having to social distance, that was a lot of fun during the pandemic, and using technology daily. So the ring is like, we had to stay in our space, right? So he's interested in learning about people's stories and what makes us all see our similarities rather than what our differences are. And so this is more of his work. He's got candles there. I would say probably representing over time, and then also our experiences. And then he uses lots of layers in his of slip, and so they just build on each other. So that's probably about the community and learning about each other and living in community. So this one's called Watching, Waiting, and Looking. And then there's me. So you already got a little bit of an intro about me. I am from Westerville, which is a suburb of Columbus. I was raised there. I thought in school I wanted to be a puppet designer for Jim Henson. I even went to New York, and I got a nice tour. They gave me a tour of Sesame Street, Jim Henson's studio. I was on my way to do that. I wanted to do special effects and build puppets. So my background was model making and building and casting in latex and foam and all that, making puppets. So that's what I thought I was going to do, and obviously I didn't do it. My first job out of school was I worked at Mako, which is, Mako is, they make glaze, but they used to make figurines for the hobby ceramics industry, you know, the paint your own pottery, and you would buy figurines. It was very popular at one time. It's starting to get a little resurgence with the paint your own pottery places. But my first job was I made the master figurines, and then they would make the molds off of those. And so I did a series of Santa Clauses, and I also did bird figurines for them. I was a doll maker for a short period of time, and I've been in several doll magazines. And then I was also a textile designer. So textile design is like wallpaper and fabric. So that was something I could do while being at home and being a mom. It was nice. But I got kind of tired of doing that because there's no community. You just sit. I got tired of sitting at my computer and being isolated. Also, my wrist was starting to hurt from moving my mouse around. And then you just make a design, and there's no concrete, there's no tangible thing to hold when you're doing graphic design on a computer. It's just fleeting, you know. Yeah, they print it out, and I have my fabric, or I have my piece, or I have I did make iPhone covers, you know, the pattern for that. That's what I did for Nordstrom. But it's still not tactile, and it's not something that you can look at and hold and touch. And so that's what really drew me to doing ceramics. So I'm very influenced. One of my special interests is history, particularly World War II, Germany. My family's from Germany. My grandparents, my grandmother, more than my grandfather, fled Germany. Her brothers were in the resistance movement. But so I'm very focused on history, and then also my genealogy. And then my current theme and what I'm trying to explore is how we present ourselves to the world, and then how we present ourselves to the world, and then how the world then perceives us back and places stereotypes and everything on top of us. So it goes both ways. Basically, it's just about being a human, right? So my piece that's in there, this one's I called it Caged. And the idea behind this is God, the way we've been created by God is the natural, beautiful creation. And so that's what's represented in the flowers. That's natural creation. But what we want to do is create something ourselves for others to perceive. And what we create is never as beautiful as what God has created. And we tend to cover up what God's created and don't let people see our true selves. But you can get glimpses, like that's why there's cutouts, so you can see how God's created it, but there's still a barrier. We all do it. We put on masks and we create this barrier. And the reason I made it very mechanical almost is it's never as beautiful and natural. It's always very, what we make can't compare. It's very structured, but I tried to decorate it, like we tried to decorate how we present ourselves and make it special by that's why I put the little jewels, like to fancy it up a little bit. And then this piece, this is about, I'm just hoping to capture that awkward moment of desperately wanting to try to be like the cool kids. Like, this was me in high school, even now. Like, I see people that I want to emulate and I think are so cool, and that's like the guy, you only see his arm. I didn't want him to be the main focus. So the arm that's up like this is someone you kind of wonder, like, who is that person? He's you just imagine. But so just imagine, or put yourself in the situation, is there anybody that you've always looked up to and wanted to emulate? And you thought, oh, it's so cool. I could never be like that. So you take that risk, and you're like, okay, I decided I'm not gonna sit back. So I'm gonna start to be brave and step out and be vulnerable. But I'm not quite there yet. So instead of dancing, with the hands out like this, because I'm just kind of tentative, and like that's why they have. And if you see, she's kind of looking, like, is this how you do it? But at least she's out on the dance floor. Like, she's taken that step. That's a huge step to even get out there, because most of us will just sit back and not do anything. So that's what that piece is about. So she's a brave girl, and even though she doesn't think so, she is trying to mirror that confidence that she sees in others. This is my friend Olivia. I knew her as Holly. We were classmates at CCAD. She went on after, she has a degree in illustration like I do. And she did what I wanted to do. She moved to Hollywood, and she worked in special effects. She worked on the show Star Trek. She did the costuming and some of the special effects for that group. Her team they did a costume, I think it was Next Generation or Voyager, I can't remember. But she worked on the costuming to make a cyborg into, like to mesh between a woman's dress and make it look like it was a cyborg. I think that was her main project that she worked on. And then she moved to Utah and decided that she didn't want to do that anymore, and she became a painter and has never looked back. She likes to celebrate, again, the theme of the mundane and not mundane, but like the everyday hero of ordinary people, okay? And so she's similar to Dean in why she paints. She wants to express dignity and love with her sitters and really get to know the person that's sitting in front of her. And so she lives in Kenya right now. And she's been there, gosh, I don't know, she's been there at least 10 years. She volunteers her time tutoring and working with kids that are living on the street. The paintings that she did for the show are boys that were in that program that she's working with. This is one of her paintings. This is a landscape in Mara. And then this one is just amazing. And she just likes to highlight people that wouldn't normally come to the forefront, you know, just everyday people that she meets and comes across while since she's living in Kenya. All right, this is Laura Sanders. She also went to CCAD. She has 2 studios, one in Columbus and then one in Long Island. And she focuses on women that are venturing beyond and into unsafe spaces. And she has an attention to the environment and feminism. You can't see from her, from this painting from a distance. You have to really get up close to appreciate the brushwork. She works wet on wet, so it's almost like sculpture. Her brush strokes, so when you walk up and you look closely, you can't tell that there's a lot of detail. Like you just are amazed at the brushwork and sculptural quality of her painting. And it's when you back up and really get the visual of how photorealistic her paintings are, and and it's amazing because they're huge. So as women, we are conditioned to be very wary, always on guard with our surroundings. It's just kind of innate part of being a woman, and she explores that. So that's like, for instance, this one, she has a whistle in her hand ready to be on guard, and she puts them into vulnerable places like alone in the outside in nature. She also has a very strong highlight, well, how do I want to word this? She has a strong emphasis on environmentalism and the impact of plastic in our environment and what that is doing to our environment. Thus, the woman wearing it's just like a regular tank top, but it looks exactly like a giant Target bag. And it's also a way to speak out about consumerism as well. So I'm not going to read that. Can we just take a moment how wonderful this is? It's amazing. This is a huge painting. This is 50 inches wide, so it's big, but if you look at the brushwork, it's just amazing, just amazing. So there's a tension between the implied risk and the freedom and autonomy of being alone in a natural landscape. So she tends to put women alone in the landscape, so she has swimmers or a lone swimmer in this one. Despite the realism of her work, Sanders doesn't want the paintings to be so realistic that you forget what the medium is, and so she consciously purposely shows the brush strokes. So this is called Waterline, and it's oil on linen. Okay, we have Wade Tollier. He also went to Cranbrook. He also taught at Tyler School of Art, and that's where he met PJ and Drew and Sahil. He was an assistant lecturer at the University of Akron, so he also got to know those guys of the original four. He's influenced by storytelling, myth, and living in the landscape of southern Louisiana. He was raised in southern Louisiana and has really influenced his artwork. He writes that as modern life takes over, traditional ways and customs often fade away. The storyteller has a duty to their community to share stories that capture their shared experiences, their values and humor of the neighborhood and their cultural roots. So he likes to, like, you know, the game of telephone, where one student or one person tells the other and it passes down. So he incorporates that as well into his artwork, where over time, how does that affect our stories when we tell the same story over time? So apply that to symbols. He has a big use of symbols. Like, for instance, he uses the skull over and over again. There's a alligator right there. That's a nod to where he's from in Louisiana. And then he just stacks them because they are stacked together over time. Like, we stack our stories over and over. So he treats his work like characters in an allegory. He organizes his objects and combines them almost into poetic columns for people to contemplate. And so these stacks, they're adorned with bright colors. And then he pares down the shapes to their simplistic form. So they're kind of rounded and simplistic. They're not overly detailed, like, you know, more like my work, where I get into all the nooks and crannies and the details. He smooths it out. And so this is a nod to how stories are smoothed out over time, almost like water washing over or pearl being created, right? So, and then our emerging voices, we have three people that I'm going to highlight for our emerging voices. And the first one is Lachey Boyd. And Lachey graduated from CCAD, I want to say in 2019, it might be 2017. I didn't write that down in my notes. She was born and raised in Cleveland, and she's influenced by Carl Jung's theory of the shadow self. She was heavily influenced by Expressionism and Surrealism. So again, I wanted to highlight her and juxtapose her work against the high photorealistic work. She has aesthetics in pop art, and she encourages conversation about metaphysical and self-transformation. She was, so the shadow self with Jung is all about repressed feelings of pain and fear left unacknowledged. And she utilizes as source for creating balance between the conscious and the unconscious aspects of self. So a lot of her artwork is about healing from past trauma, and her art brought her understanding, connection, what it means to be her, whether it's a connection with God or a connection with her community. So this is some of her pieces. And see, you can see the shadow self and that blue shadow there. And Sahil, he describes his creative approach by doing intuitive drawing and then thinking about the theme later. He feels it's important to have distance between the form and the title or theme. He also, he says it must have three principles: a twist, something unexpected, and something aggressive yet mindful. And then he likes to use humor. So, so this is using humor and something unexpected. So I saw you, get it? I saw you. So it has a saw and then also saw. Yeah, it's very playful. And this one we have in the gallery, it's nice to meet you. And then he has like these hot dog-like shapes coming out, and banana. And we're gonna go on to Keenan. She is at Kent State, she just graduated. She also went to Sheridan College. Her idea, her takeaway, she likes to take everyday things that we don't normally notice, like pipes and grids and wires, stuff that's on like behind the walls, and then turns into art that makes us think about what memories and spaces, how it's held together. Like this space physically is held together by the architecture, but then she translates that into art. So she makes her art kind of symbolizes the holding together symbolically, okay? So this is some of her pieces. So you can see the idea, the influence of pipes and infrastructure. So her art isn't about giving answers, it's more about keeping things open and letting you feel the in-between. So those negative spaces between the pipes and the shapes. So each sculpture is like a snapshot of thoughts, emotions, and memories of places, showing that there's a deeper meaning behind their abstract shapes. So, can you see the influences between the difference and which artistic styles did you appreciate, or that speak to you more? Are you more drawn to some of the expressive pieces, or are you drawn to some of the photorealistic pieces? And anybody have any questions? And I hope you go see the show. I did not cover the pieces that are in the show because I figured you can go and look at them yourself. You didn't need to see them on the slides. And then please read the cards. There's even more information about each person's themes and their bio on their bio cards as well.
Thank you so much.